Greetings and salutations. I am your host, Pat626, and I host Subculture Shock Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on Twitch, where I play a lot of goth, industrial, darkwave, deathrock, EBM, synthpop, and postpunk. And let me tell you, nothing tickles my fancy quite like some good old-fashioned goth rock to write home to mom about. And I'll tell you who's putting that out right now, a band called Blood Dance. And if you haven't heard of them, well, that's because you haven't been paying attention. But they are coming out of Mexico City like a thunderbolt. And I'm really pleased to have Alberto Martinez of Blood Dance in the studio tonight. How's it going, Alberto?
Hey, how's it going, Pat? I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate you joining me. So, I guess the how I normally start these shows is with what I like to call the supervillain origin story. So, I mentioned that Blood Dance has like a fresh take on a really classic sound. And so I always like to know, how did you get into music like this to begin with?
Okay. I'm originally from Texas. I was born in San Antonio, and also I went to school in Houston in the 90s. I was super, and I'm a fan of your show, so I've been hearing a couple of interviews, and I guess it's kind of the same. I was into metal for a long time, mm-hmm. and then I guess somewhere around the late 90s, there was like a resurgence of the goth scene with a bunch of bands like London After Midnight and all of that. So I had a friend of mine take me to a place in Houston called The Abyss, and he took me to a show to see a band called Christian Death. And Ross Williams was on that tour. I guess that was his last tour before the incident. So I was tripped out because again, I was into death metal, black metal, and all of that. So I was like, okay, Christian Death, that sounds heavy. And I go to the bar and I see the band, and I'm like, wow, this is different. This is way different. It's darker, it's denser, and I started liking that music, but I still wasn't quite into it because honestly speaking, I'm more into like a bit more somber music with pianos and things of that sort. So I was making a bunch of that kind of music with other projects. And then when I came to Mexico City in 2008, I found the subculture here was going full force. There was about 3-4 goth bars, and just they're playing classics left and right, new music, and I fell in love with the scene. And I guess when I decided to make Blood Dance about 6 years ago, it was an homage to that scene. I wanted to give thanks for them for creating that kind of atmosphere where that you wouldn't quite expect in Mexico, or it's not what people commonly think about when they think about Mexico. But that's why I kind of made the band, and I started focusing on a lot of the classics that I liked, that I heard here, and started developing a sound based off of that. But then also adding a little bit of my experience, where I grew up, things I've heard into that sound, to maybe kind of push the limits a little bit as to what goth is, or what I consider it or perceive it to be.
So you gave me a lot to work with there. Thank you. But one thing that you mentioned is that I find interesting. So you've seen a couple of these interviews, and yeah, no one comes to the table with goth being the first thing that they hear. It's usually, like, oh yeah, I started off with pop like any kid, and I got into metal, and so I like what you said about how, okay, so goth name like Christian Death. Okay, that sounds like a metal band. That's fair. and so you go expecting that. Why do you think it is that so many people that are into metal though still end up really getting into goth, even though, like you said, it's very different from metal. It is. I really like what you said. You said that it was darker, which is interesting because it's a lot less heavy than metal, but it's still darker than metal, and sometimes even more just giving this feeling of darkness and of gloominess than metal can be.
Right. No, I mean, when I started getting into Christian death and just really going in there and listening to the music, I remember their first album and just all those screams and things that he was doing with effects and delays and all that. I was like, this is way different from what I'm accustomed to, and I think it has to do with that. I mean, I'm not dismissing metal at all.
No,
I still
definitely
metal.
not.
Right. It goes somewhere else. I feel that metal has a very, very percussive element to it. Just the crunch and the way you play the guitar with the palm mutes and all of that. It's awesome, but it's more percussive. And I think goth goes more into, I guess, melodies and atmosphere a bit more than metal might. I mean, of course, they do it with a bunch of bands have done that, but I think it has to do with that percussive element versus the more, I guess, introspective, atmospheric element that is goth, and the storytelling behind it. I think it's interesting. I find that bands like Merciful Fate also have that same element, but with but I think goth is way more raw. It just goes down to just the essence of darkness to me, without all the fluff.
I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, because metal, even a lot of metal anyway, even though it's palm muted chords and really, really heavy and crunchy, there's this kind of almost operatic aspect to it. There's this,
Right.
there's almost more of a stage show to it. Even the simplest metal songs usually have a lot more going on, especially with the solos, than goth do, and
Right.
than goth does. Yeah, and so goth is just like skin to the bone.
Right, exactly.
But therefore
Because there's the
more
whole
vulnerable.
punk aspect of it as well. It just goth comes from, like, I guess, the punk subgenres. So I guess that would also be why they diverge so much sometimes.
That's I haven't actually had that discussion on this show before, and I'm kind of ashamed that I haven't now. And that was just really cool. So thank you. Thank you for verging on the topic a little bit. So, okay. So you started the band originally as a tribute, and then you said that you started kind of working in your own experiences into the band. So what does that look like when you're going from like, here is my tribute band to becoming, this is me now. I'm going to make music about me and for me and by me.
Right. Well, I mean, it wasn't necessarily tribute in the aspect of I'm going to play covers of other songs. It was more like, it was more a tribute to the community. So it was like my offering. Mm-hmm. I want to contribute to this scene by making new music.
Okay.
Inspired by all the things that you all showed me while I was down here, my experience put on record, I guess we could say, or on track, because we don't have records. So yeah, it was more about that. And in terms of bringing in my own experiences, I guess we could talk about, for example, the song "Child of Fear." Mm-hmm. My friends who hear it, they say, okay, you're putting some trap elements in there, you're putting some Houston sound in there, Houston hip hop actually, because I was always a fan of how they work the hi-hats within that music. So I wanted to add something that alluded to trap hi-hats on that track. So that would be a way of me putting that experience, because when I was a kid, I grew up in the hood. I grew up listening to that sort of music. Even though it wasn't my favorite, it was always around me. So it was a way of kind of representing my experience in my childhood within that track. And we have a couple of other ones. We have one that we're working right now that I guess blend Caribbean elements into the song with what do they call it? Soca beats, calypso kind of beats.
That's awesome.
Do I?
I'm just saying that's awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah. Because there's a really, really strong like anti-reggaeton I guess opinion here in Mexico, and I'm like, well, it's not all bad. I mean, personally, I like all forms of music. I love everything that's out there. There's good music in every single subgenre, and you can, as a musician, you can learn from that. And I think it's a bit more faithful to the ideology of post-punk, and not limiting yourself and being open to other things. So
right.
We have like the Talking Heads who wanted to put in African beats and African rhythms into their music. So I was like, well, why not represent something that's Latin American within the goth scene without it being overly Latin American and still keeping its gothic essence. So those are the types of things that I refer to when I'm trying to add my experience to this type of music.
I gotta tell you, I had not considered the possibility of goth reggaeton, but now that thought has entered my head, I really want it. I want to hear it. I need this. I need this now. That's fantastic.
It's going to be interesting.
Oh, I'm here for it. So,
yeah.
Blood Dance is a many-membered group, but as the founder of the group, did it start out as just you, or did you, as soon as you got into this, you knew you wanted to assemble a band around you?
I wasn't sure what I was going to do. All I knew was that I wanted to make music for that scene. Previous to Blood Dance, I had other projects, and they were more about me and what I like, and where I like to take music, the things I like to explore, textures, melodies, and all of that. Blood Dance was more about giving a public something that they might like. So I recorded those, first 6-7 tracks at home by myself. And I recruited the first person I contacted was the keyboard player, Arturo Castel, or Castel, that's what we call him, to come on board. And I was like, well, I have these songs and I need help playing them live. So that was the original intent. It was like, okay, yeah, consider yourselves hired guns, and we're gonna play these songs. I'm Trent Reznor, and you're my band, that kind of deal. And but no, I mean, we brought in some really strong musicians. A lot of some have come and gone, and each one has contributed in some way to the evolution of these songs and the projects. And the demo that I made doesn't necessarily represent the final product that was put out.
So at this point, is it more of a group effort when you're working on new stuff, or do you mostly still write the music and then bring it to the group and they kind of workshop it from there?
Yeah, I mean, there's an open door policy. Like, everyone can bring their own music. It's just lately we've been working on a lot of material that I kind of had in the back. And, we're doing an entirely new set, and I've limited myself to 3 songs that I've made, and then I've asked the other people to bring in their own songs, and we'll choose from all of those, and then create a couple of them, a couple of songs that are just straight jamming there in the studio.
Okay, all right. Already,
Yeah.
you've given me goth trap, goth reggaeton, and now we're going goth jam band here. And I see a lot of possibility here, but also a lot of experimentation. And I think that's something that you said that I think is really powerful, is that post-punk itself was an experimental genre originally. Like, it was people just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Right. Yeah. I mean, people there's a bunch of music coming out that's really good that I really like, but it all kind of sounds the same, and they just slapped the label on it and said this is what post punk is. And when you go back and you hear post punk from the 80s or 70s, you're just like, no, that's not post punk. Post punk was more of a philosophy of not creating one sound. It was uh, bringing in multiple sounds, multiple things, multiple ideas, and doing something new that where there's no restrictions. And I mean, at least that's how I felt that scene was, um, which isn't necessarily goth, obviously, but we ascribe more to, I guess, that philosophy where we're trying to do new things and push the limits of what these, I guess, this dark music should be or can be.
I appreciate that a great deal because yeah, like I think that the first pioneers of a genre come down and there's no genre yet, and so they start experimenting with things and people are like, hey, we really like this. What is this? Oh, well, we're going to call it goth or post punk or cold wave or whatever.
Right.
And then that's locked in place. And all of a sudden that's what it's supposed to sound like. But that's not what they set out to create. They didn't set out to create music that sounded just like this. They just started experimenting and got some good shit out of it. And so I like that that's what you're doing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I always attributed that to, I guess, the music industry. I mean, when one awesome band would come out, and I guess they just wanted to make multiple versions of that band, or just like in a cutter fashion, make other bands that sound like that. I guess it happened a lot during the grunge era, where they were labeling everything grunge or putting together grunge bands and all of that. But I mean, at least that's what I thought. But now with a dead music industry that's just basically abandoned rock for the most part, you're still seeing that, especially like I said with this post punk label. I'm like, okay, maybe it wasn't the music industry. Maybe it's people themselves that are limiting themselves and their creativity. I'm not sure. I've had this conversation with a bunch of people. Some are about classifying and organizing and saying this is what you are and these are your limits. But I don't agree with that.
I feel like, yeah, I feel like there's a difference between like having a bunch of genre tags that make it so that people that like another type of music can easily find your band, and that's fine. But then limiting yourself and being like, I'm only gonna make this stuff though. I'm only gonna do 4 on the floor with a chorus pedal and a phaser on my distorted guitar, and that's it.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's how I feel. I've had this discussion with a bunch of notable DJs here in Mexico City, and they're all about classifying. I'm like, well, obviously you have to play a set that sounds very similar. I guess to you as a DJ, it makes sense. To me as a musician, not so much.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could go on that train for hours, honestly, because as a DJ myself, it's kind of funny. I'm almost the opposite of like I feel like we should just give it as broad a genre as possible. Like what some people classify as like some people will call it post punk or there'll be shoegaze and dream pop. And to me, these are all just different goth bands that came out in the 80s.
Right? Yeah.
And
That's how I feel.
yeah, exactly. It's like, oh no, they're all just different flavors of goth, and goth is the ice cream, and all of these other little labels are like the flavors of it.
Right.
But I don't just serve vanilla ice cream. I serve ice cream.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're Baskin Robbins.
Dude, there we go. Baskin Robbins of goth. I am 31 flavors and then some. No, you've ruined it. I am. That's how I'm describing my show from now on. I'm just gonna make a Baskin Robbins sign, but then change all of the little ice cream scoops to skulls. And
Hey, well, glad I could contribute to the
Yeah,
betterment.
it was all Blood Dance's fault, folks. You heard it here first. The harder I make it for you to drink your drink, the better job I'm doing on this interview.
Right? Oh, you can't keep me away from my tequilas.
Nor would I try. That sounds like a crime.
Right, right.
So, sorry, you touched a nerve with the whole experimental aspect of it, and I'm happy to hear that. So, I guess you've been doing this for 6 years, and you've gone from making your music by yourself to having a band, and you've gone from just making music for other people as your contribution to making it more about, okay, well, bringing more stuff into it. Has at any has your your approach to Blood Dance as a whole changed? Like, do you see this as a different band than it was when you started it 6 years ago, or is it the same band, only better?
That's an interesting question. We've just, I think we're a 5-piece, and of that 5-piece, only 2 of us have were the original band members. 2 drummers have gone through there, 2 frontmen, and multiple bassists. Um, it's evolved. I feel each and every one of those people have contributed to the betterment of this project, and I love them all. I still talk to them. Some of them decided to pursue other activities, other projects, but we remain friends. And when they come around, I'm like, well, you did contribute something to this band, and it's not necessarily what I thought it was going to be. When I made the project, I was thinking of something with me playing maybe another guy and some playback music, because that's what was happening. Again, I was trying to ascribe to a formula, but I didn't like that. I didn't like the idea of a computer or an iPod or whatnot um, telling me what I should be doing live. Because what if I'm really feeling one part of that song, or the people are really enjoying one part? What if I want to have like an interaction where they call back and all of that? So I threw out that out the door, and I brought in a drummer um, to work to help us with that, so that we can work with the project, work interact with people better, work with dynamics. Maybe one day we're feeling very aggro and we're going to go in there at 200 miles an hour, or sometimes we're feeling a bit more I guess down or introspective, and we might play the songs a bit differently. So it's changed. It's definitely changed. It's not what I had recorded. It's not what I had intended. It's better, and we've even experimented with sequencing tracks, and sometimes we want to do it, sometimes we don't want to do it. There's a lot of factors involved. So, but yeah, it's not the same project it started. It's evolved. It's something totally different.
So, what is Blood Dance like live then? Like, how does the live performance? Because you mentioned that because there are a lot of bands out there that are either using sequence drums or at least sequence tracks along with the drums. So they're kind of locked in a performance to a certain extent. It sounds like you try to take a more experimental approach to live shows as well.
Yeah, I mean, just old school, basically. Sometimes you want people to sing along, and you pause the song for 3-4 minutes, and until the people start singing. And I've noticed that people still want that, and they still want to be a part of the experience. And so that's going on. Our drummer right now is so awesome. Natalia Esperanza. He's a drum god here. I guess they consider him the best drummer in the scene out here. Um, and he just works with it. He's sort of a Keith Moon kind of drummer, where he doesn't necessarily always play the same thing. He's just going up and down the drums, and that means that every single live show that we have is different from the previous one. And we like that. We don't like pre-packaging a show for people, especially because I mean we're a smaller band, so we play smaller shows, and we're able to experiment a lot more because of that.
So, all right, I do have to make the joke then. Is he, since he's such a good drummer, does that mean he's basically in every band in Mexico City?
Oh man, there's this guy out there in LA. He's a good buddy of ours, Kareem. He has a project called Lotto Ball or Loto Ball. He used to be part of the Phantom Limbs out there in Cali, and he's coming down. Yeah, he's coming down now to Mexico City. He just did a show with him. He had previously sang with us on stage, and I put him in contact with our drummer Nat, and now he's his drummer down here in Mexico, and he's picking up speed down here because of him. He recently got into other bands. It has a lot to do with them hearing Nat play in Blood Dance. So, but I feel his heart's in this band.
I just note that because basically, in Charlottesville, where I spent a lot of time in the scene, you had like one or two drummers in every single band.
Yeah. It's hard to find a good drummer. So they spread themselves out.
Well, I'm glad that you found one though, because you're right. I mean, if I was going to see, if I was one of your like dedicated fans going out to these small shows, I would love to get a different experience every time, and I'm sure that they appreciate that. But it also just sounds fun as hell to perform.
Yeah, it's super fun. I would not want to play with a drum machine.
Even
though he keeps telling me, you need a drum machine. I'm like, okay, maybe these are low level beats, but it makes an interesting show.
As a former musician who did have a drum machine, you learn to experiment with it your own way, but I will admit that I found myself like trying to push the envelope and trying to make each so different in ways because the songs were in such lockstep. So I think that when you have a set of musicians that you trust, like you seem to with the guys in Blood Dance, being able to just work off each other and work off the crowd makes for a phenomenal experience.
Right. And our bassist is female, of course. She's an awesome bassist as well, Bree.
Awesome. So, what do you think is the future for Blood Dance then?
Well, this week has been really busy.
Okay. Tell me about this week.
Things have been avalanching, I guess. They've just been growing into this big giant ball recently. A lot of it has to do with the fact that we've been working with Barry Galvin, Barry of Mephisto Waltz.
Hell yeah.
Is in our corner. He's producing us. He's doing the audio engineering for us. So that's definitely helped. He's recorded on a couple of our tracks. And because of that, I guess we've gotten a lot of visibility. It's weird because although we play a lot of shows locally, if you look at our stats online, we have a lot more fans in the U.S. It's crazy. We've never played up there. We want to, but I guess U.S. immigration isn't Mexican friendly. So we're trying to work
a
way around that. But yeah, it's been growing. We put a video out recently. We recorded it in a abandoned church. That was cool. But right now, this week, we've been recording another video for our most recent single, Wicked King.
Great single.
Right. Yeah, I love it. It's inspired by slasher films and Giallo cinema, with Dario Argento. So we talked to this movie director down here who does a lot of horror films, and she was like totally down with making like a full-fledged production, um, more in the vein of, I guess, Moonwalker or Bad, where
Yeah.
the was a lot longer than the song with pauses and all of that. I was like, okay, we could do that. We could try it. I like Michael Jackson, so I would like to do a video like that.
No,
Um,
you're talking about my childhood now. Like
right,
remembering music videos were like Thriller, where it's like a
right,
whole movie before the music
exactly.
even starts. Yeah. Like music
That's what
videos
she
with
wants
end
to do.
credits.
That's what she wants to do with this song, and I'm like, okay, yeah, let's try that.
I am here
Um,
for this.
so we well, Mexico City is basically a big giant a valley that's surrounded by mountains, and we were looking for locations, and I was on Google Maps. I was literally just going up and down streets to see what I could find in the mountains, and we found this interesting cabin up there, and I decided to drive over there, and it was owned by this hermit who lives there, and I told him, hey, like I want to film something up here, and he's like, yeah, yeah, you can come film whatever you want,
You're
and
probably like the third person to ask.
right, yeah. Apparently his dad had filmed it when his dad was alive. They filmed another movie there,
Oh, neat.
um, Little Red Riding Hood. So it was that type of cabin.
Yeah.
We were doing a killer clown theme video for that. So this weekend we filmed that over there up in the mountains, and yesterday we did a couple of scenes in a bar of us playing, and this weekend uh, I guess we're gonna wrap that up, do a couple of other scenes. Today we did a session for a radio program here in Mexico City, right before this interview. So they put us in contact with other people, and this weekend where we're going to play a festival, uh, a large festival of I guess the best bands out here. It's going to be great. Um, from that, we're looking into getting visas for the rest of the band members who don't have them, so that we can tour the U.S. We've been getting hit up all over the East and West Coast. They're asking us to play out there in Cali, out there in Florida. Jason Ledyard, he wants to get us out there in Florida. So we're working on that. It's weird because we're so close to the U.S., but it's a lot easier for us to actually fly out to England or Germany and play some shows because there's not as many I guess restrictions in terms of immigration.
Ah.
The process to play in the U.S. is so hard. We have to showcase that we're significantly talented musicians,
What?
and on top of that, they have to contact the musicians union in the U.S. and they have to greenlight us before they even give us visas. It's a complicated process, but I think we can do it. I think we have enough fans that want us to play the U.S., so we're gonna try that.
All right.
Yeah.
So now I'm genuinely curious. Because is this like a thing that is this a thing that all non-US bands have to go through, or is this specifically because you're from Mexico?
I'm not sure. It might be general. Um, I remember Twin Tribes had a deal with that. They're from technically speaking, they're from Brownsville, but I think they had some visa issues there.
Right.
So that happened. I don't. What's that band from Chile? They just recently went up this year. They just totally conquered the U.S. Dival
Yeah.
Daring or something. They went up there. So I don't know. I've been meaning to contact them to ask them about the situation, but I don't know. All I know is that it's we can literally just for the cost of getting our permits to play in the U.S., we could buy plane tickets to England, and they're not going to ask for anything. They're just going to ask us how much time we're going to be out there. So
That's
we also we're hoping to get into the Wave Gothic Treffen and the Polo Festival out there in Germany next year. Hopefully that happens. If you're hearing us, we want to go out there.
yeah. Anyone paying attention right now, just go ahead and petition your local scene to have Blood Dance come play.
Yeah, we'll go.
You're getting some sympathy in the chat, by the way, about the BS you're having to deal with to get into the United States. Apparently, it's been tough all over outside the U.S. since the 90s, and getting U.S. citizenship got a lot harder too. Which, I knew, because I remember that Einstürzen and Neubauten stopped playing, German bands stopped playing in the early mid 2000s because it was just getting too expensive to bring all their equipment over. But I didn't realize that there was just such a process.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, technically speaking, you could kind of go over there with tourist visa, kind of do things under the table. But I've had a couple of friends who tried that, and it didn't go well for them. So
yeah.
we're trying the right way.
Trying to do it the right way, and Uncle Sam says no.
Yeah.
God bless America.
Right.
Wow. Well, you know what? Maybe they'll just give me an excuse to go to Europe so that I can finally see a band that I love from Mexico.
Yeah, or come to Mexico and see 100.
It's probably easier for me to get to you than it is for you to get to me.
Yeah. Everyone's welcome. Come to Mexico. Come check out the scene over here. It's crazy. I mean, I've been to many countries, and I have to say, Mexico City has a very unique and very awesome, very lively scene. It's a bunch of young people. So
a bunch of young people.
Yeah.
I think that's important though, because I had Jose Hernandez Rivas Cruz, who's been in the Mexico City scene for a long time. I had him on the show a couple weeks ago talking about how it really started, how the goth scene started in there, because goth was just one of the genres to break in during the rock ban. But it's interesting though to get it from a younger perspective too, because young bands, young blood is the only way that scenes stay alive.
Right. Yeah. I agree. You can gauge a scene by the amount of young people that are part of that scene.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's how yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, me and the people that joined the scene when I did are we're all in our late 30s, early 40s at this point. We're old and decrepit now. We can't dance more than 3 songs without having to go take a breath.
Tell me about it.
Yeah,
I'm 43.
Yeah,
43.
so you're right there. Yeah.
I'm one of the elders out here. But there's a bunch of young bands out here. There's Dance Skeleton. That's one. Estrero. They're a bunch of young kids with all this energy, and they're just doing things that are gender bending all over the place. They're contributing to
I love it.
to creating such an awesome scene down here, and I hope they get a chance to be listened to outside of Mexico.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. So I guess the big question that's left is hey, how do we discover your music? How do we find your stuff?
We're on Spotify, we're on Google, Amazon, all those streaming networks. We're on most of those. We're trying. I mean, people keep asking us, "Do you have a CD?" I'm like, I don't even have a CD player, so I mean, that's me. That's me. I know a lot of people still respect that, but we're trying to put some vinyl out there. But for the most part, we're on your common streaming platforms for right now. We do hope to have a vinyl album, maybe somewhere around March.
So, can I find you on like Bandcamp then?
Bandcamp, yes.
Yeah.
We're on Bandcamp. We're on Spotify. We're of course on YouTube. Please support us by going to Bandcamp and purchasing our songs. We've thought about a Patreon, but I don't think we have enough content for that at this moment.
Just
But
start
we're
recording
thinking
those live shows, man. All that
I
jamming
know
you're doing.
this one session we just did was magic, and we're wondering how we're gonna put that out. So perhaps on there. But yeah, I mean, most people can find us on your common streaming platforms. In terms of our social media, we're on Instagram, Facebook. You could look us up as Blood Dance Band. We're also on Twitter. We've actually been thinking about creating a Twitch channel to see what we can do with that. The
Hey,
singer,
man, they'll let anybody make a Twitch channel these days. I mean, they let me
right?
make one, so.
Yeah, your show is awesome though. So there's a finite amount of songs that we have, but our singer has been doing a showcase of covers and I guess music that has inspired us, and we might be on Twitch soon to put that out there, plus multiple versions of songs that we have.
Worst case scenario, just get the whole band together to play video games. It'll take off like gangbusters.
Right? Yeah, we could do that. I've been super into Ghostbusters right now.
Oh, there's a new Ghostbusters game, isn't there?
Yeah.
Is it? I didn't realize that was out now. Is it good?
It's all right. I've been into it more because I like the movies. So
I love the
um,
movies. I love
the
all the
film
movies.
is awesome. So.
Okay. No, I'm here. I'm here for it. I'm in. All right.
Right.
I'm coming to your house tomorrow. I'm playing Ghostbusters.
Hey, the door's open.
Well, I really want to thank you for joining me, Alberto. I know that we were thinking the other guys were the other folks were going to come in, but you tell them all that they missed a lot of fun.
Right, yeah, I guess they went out to drink or something. So.
Well, that's all right. You had tequila. We're good to go.
Yeah, I went to drink as well. So. Yeah.
But is there anything else you wanted to add before I let you go and go find your band?
Oh yeah. So we're gonna have the video soon. We're thinking October 28th, and we're actually going to release that at a horror film festival. So before that, I expect within the next 2 weeks, we're going to have a Halloween song.
Ooh,
someone
I love that artwork.
Right, it's so awesome. But yeah, we decided we're gonna do a Halloween song, holiday song. Well, we hope to have that in 2 weeks. So
is this an original song, or are you covering like a Halloween song?
It's a totally original song.
I am here for it. We need more original Halloween songs.
Right? Yeah. So I was thinking we're gonna either do a Christmas song or a Halloween song. So we decided on a Halloween song. So
Halloween is goth Christmas. It's fine.
Right? It's gothless. So we're hoping to have that out in maybe the next 2 weeks. So we're working hard on that right now. So
that is wonderful to hear. So neat. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And just a reminder, if you're watching live, no after party tonight. We got a bit of a late start, so we're going to call in an early evening. But if you're watching on YouTube, Blood Dance has one video out, and depending on when you're watching this on YouTube, there may already be the video for Wicked King out there. So make sure you look Blood Dance up on YouTube and enjoy.
Cool.
And in the meantime, send me those tracks as soon as they're available, and I'll play the shit out of them.
All right. Thanks a lot, Pat.
Thank you very much, Alberto, for joining us, and have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. Bye.